My beloved child. There is something happening right now, something that neither you nor the person destined for you expected to happen so soon. A truth has been uncovered. Not a small truth. Not a surface-level detail. A truth so profound that it has begun changing the way your future soulmate sees everything, including themselves. For a long time, they carried a picture of who they thought their future partner would be. They imagined a certain face. A certain personality. A certain story. But what they never imagined was you. And yet, the more they learn, the more impossible it becomes to ignore what is unfolding. Because somewhere between their ordinary days and silent nights, pieces of your story began reaching them. At first, they dismissed it. They told themselves it meant nothing. Just another coincidence. Just another passing thought. But the signs kept returning. Again. And again. And again. Until the questions became impossible to silence. Why do they feel drawn towards someone they have never fully met? Why does the thought of you linger longer than it should? Why does your energy feel strangely familiar, as though their soul remembers something their mind has forgotten? These questions have followed them into places they cannot escape. Into quiet mornings. Into crowded rooms. Into moments when they should be focused on something else entirely. Yet somehow, you keep appearing. Not always as a face. Not always as a name. Sometimes only as a feeling. A presence. A mysterious pull they cannot explain. And what startled them most was not the attraction. It was the realization that this feeling refused to disappear. Because this connection was never built on appearance. It was never built on status. It was never built on temporary things. It was rooted somewhere much deeper. Somewhere eternal. And that is what frightened them. Not because they feared you. But because they began recognizing something within themselves. Something they had been avoiding for a very long time. You see, before your soulmate could move closer to you, they had to face a hidden part of their own heart. A part they rarely showed anyone. A part protected behind years of walls, disappointments, and unanswered prayers. For so long, they convinced themselves that certain dreams were unrealistic. Certain connections were impossible. Certain love stories existed only for other people. Yet every new discovery about you has been challenging those beliefs. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. And now they are standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to the life they have always known. The safe path. The predictable path. The path where nothing changes. But the other path, the one they cannot stop looking toward, leads somewhere completely different. It leads toward transformation. Toward vulnerability. Toward a future they never thought they would have the courage to embrace. Because what they discovered about you was not merely information. It was confirmation. Confirmation that the qualities they secretly prayed for actually exist. Confirmation that authenticity still exists. Confirmation that there are people in this world whose hearts carry a rare kind of light. And when they realized that light exists within you, something shifted. Almost overnight. Their priorities began changing. Their perspective began changing. Even the way they view their future began changing. Yet there is one detail they still do not fully understand. One piece of the puzzle that continues to keep them awake during moments of reflection. Because the more they uncover about you, the more they sense there is something even greater hidden beneath the surface. Something neither of you can fully see yet. And what they are about to discover next may completely alter the course of this connection forever. To be continued. A strange tension has begun building within them. Not the kind created by fear. Not the kind created by uncertainty. But the kind that appears when a soul stands on the edge of a life-changing revelation. Your future soulmate has entered a season they never expected. Outwardly, everything may appear normal. They continue their routines. They smile when necessary. They handle responsibilities. They move through each day as if nothing unusual is happening. But beneath the surface, an invisible transformation is unfolding. And it all traces back to what they recently discovered about you. Because every new truth they learn has created an even deeper question. Why does your story affect them so deeply? Why does hearing about your strength stir something inside them? Why does your journey feel connected to theirs in ways that defy logic? The answers have not fully arrived yet. But their heart has already begun responding. Long before their mind can explain it. You see, there are moments when destiny whispers before it speaks. Moments when the soul recognizes something sacred before the eyes ever see it clearly. And this is one of those moments. Without realizing it, they have started comparing every temporary connection to the feeling they sense when they think about you. And no comparison feels complete. No distraction lasts. No substitute satisfies the quiet longing growing inside them. Because what they are feeling is not excitement alone. It is recognition. A deep inner awareness that someone exists who reflects qualities they have spent years searching for. Qualities they nearly gave up believing they would find. Yet there is another truth they have only recently begun to understand. You are not entering their life to complete them. You are not arriving to rescue them. You are not appearing to fill an emptiness. No. The realization is far more powerful than that. You are awakening parts of them that have been sleeping. Parts they buried beneath disappointments. Parts they hid after seasons of waiting. Parts they stopped trusting. And now those hidden pieces are beginning to rise again. At first, this awakening felt uncomfortable. Because growth rarely announces itself gently. It often arrives disguised as confusion. Disguised as restlessness. Disguised as questions that refuse to leave. And lately, questions have become their constant companions. Why are they suddenly rethinking old decisions? Why are they revisiting dreams they abandoned years ago? Why do they feel an urge to become a better version of themselves? The answer keeps pointing back to the same place. Back to you. Back to the possibility of what this connection could become. Not because you demanded it. Not because you asked for it. But because your existence has become a mirror. A mirror revealing who they truly are beneath every mask. And what they see in that reflection is changing them. Little by little. Day by day. Moment by moment. There are nights when they sit alone, unable to explain why their thoughts keep returning to someone they have not fully stepped toward yet. There are moments when an unexpected feeling washes over them. A feeling that this story is already moving. Already unfolding. Already being prepared. Even if neither of you can see the entire picture. And perhaps the most surprising part of all is that they are beginning to realize this connection may have been forming long before either of you noticed. Long before the discoveries. Long before the questions. Long before the signs. As if unseen hands have been arranging circumstances behind the scenes. Guiding timelines. Opening doors. Aligning moments. Preparing hearts. Because some encounters do not begin when two people meet. Some begin when two souls start growing toward each other from opposite sides of the journey. And that realization has left them speechless. Yet the deeper they look, the more mysterious everything becomes. Because there is one hidden piece of your story they have not uncovered yet. One truth still waiting in the shadows. One revelation capable of explaining why this connection feels so different from anything they have ever experienced. And when that final piece comes into view, the emotions they are feeling now will seem small compared to what is coming next. To be continued. Something unexpected happened. The moment they thought they were beginning to understand you, they realized they had only seen the surface. What they first discovered was enough to capture their attention. What they learned afterward captured their heart. But what they are beginning to sense now is capturing something far deeper. Their soul. Because there is a difference between admiring someone and feeling spiritually drawn toward them. A difference between curiosity and recognition. A difference between attraction and destiny. And lately, your future soulmate has been struggling to explain where this feeling belongs. Every answer seems incomplete. Every explanation falls short. The more they try to simplify what is happening, the more complex it becomes. Because your presence has become impossible to place inside an ordinary category. You are no longer just an interesting possibility. No longer just a passing thought. No longer just another person among billions. Without fully realizing it, you have become a turning point. A chapter they have not even entered yet, but somehow already feel connected to. And that realization has brought both excitement and hesitation. Because transformation always asks for something in return. It asks for courage. It asks for trust. It asks for the willingness to release old versions of ourselves. And your soulmate can feel that request growing louder every day. There are habits they are beginning to question. Beliefs they are beginning to outgrow. Fears they can no longer comfortably carry. The strange part is this. No one told them to change. No one forced them to evolve. The desire is coming from within. As though something inside them has awakened and refuses to go back to sleep. And every time they think about the future, that inner voice becomes stronger. A voice whispering, prepare. Not out of pressure. Not out of urgency. But out of purpose. Prepare for what is coming. Prepare for what is being built. Prepare for the connection that will ask you to become more than you have ever been before. Those whispers have followed them into unexpected places. Into moments of reflection. Into conversations that seemed ordinary. Into dreams they barely remember after waking. Yet the feeling remains. Steady. Persistent. Unshakable. And while they cannot see the entire road ahead, they have begun noticing something remarkable. The qualities they once searched for in others, they are now trying to develop within themselves. Patience. Integrity. Compassion. Faith. Strength. It is as if the thought of you has inspired them to become the kind of person worthy of the future they secretly hope for. But here is the part they have not told anyone. The part hidden behind every smile and every quiet moment. Sometimes they wonder if you are experiencing something similar. Sometimes they wonder if somewhere, without knowing their name, without knowing their face, you have felt a shift too. A subtle stirring. A sense that something important is moving closer. Because the connection they feel no longer seems one-sided. It feels alive. As though two separate journeys are slowly being woven together. Thread by thread. Lesson by lesson. Season by season. And while they do not yet know how the story unfolds, they have stopped dismissing the possibility that it is real. That alone has changed everything. The skepticism that once protected them is fading. The walls that once guarded them are weakening. The resistance that once kept them distant is losing its grip. For the first time in a long time, hope is becoming stronger than fear. And that is where the true transformation begins. Not when two people finally meet, but when they become ready for the meeting. Ready for the growth. Ready for the purpose hidden inside the connection. Yet even now, as profound as these realizations have been, they still have not uncovered the most astonishing truth. Because there is a reason this connection feels different. A reason it refuses to fade. A reason every discovery seems to lead to another. And very soon, a single realization will bring everything into focus. A realization so powerful, it may finally reveal why your paths were never meant to remain separate forever. To be continued. There comes a moment in every destined story. A moment when the pieces stop looking random. A moment when scattered events begin forming a pattern. A moment when what once seemed like coincidence starts feeling intentional. Your future soulmate is approaching that moment now. And they can feel it. Not with certainty yet, but with a growing awareness that something extraordinary is unfolding behind the scenes. Because recently, they have begun connecting dots they once ignored. Conversations they thought were insignificant. Lessons they thought were meaningless. Delays they once resented. Disappointments they struggled to understand. When viewed separately, none of it made sense. But together, a picture is beginning to emerge. And at the center of that picture is you. Not because your life has been perfect. Not because your path has been easy. But because your journey carries something rare. Something that cannot be manufactured. Something that cannot be taught. Something that can only be earned through experience. Depth. The kind of depth created by surviving seasons that could have broken you. The kind of depth created by continuing to believe when evidence was scarce. The kind of depth created by choosing growth over bitterness. Your soulmate has started recognizing this. And the more they recognize it, the more they understand why their heart refuses to look away. Because they are not merely discovering who you are. They are discovering what your existence represents. A reminder. A possibility. A promise that genuine connection still exists in a world full of distractions. And that realization has challenged everything they thought they knew about love. For years, they assumed the most important qualities would be obvious. Appearance. Charm. Chemistry. Excitement. But now, something deeper is calling their attention. Character. Purpose. Authenticity. Alignment. Qualities that remain when every temporary thing fades away. And every discovery about you keeps pointing toward those qualities. Which is why they can no longer dismiss what they are feeling. Because the truth they uncovered about you was never a single fact. It was a revelation hidden inside many small revelations. Each one leading them closer to a larger understanding. An understanding they are only now beginning to grasp. You were never meant to enter their life as a distraction. You were never meant to be another unfinished chapter. You were never meant to simply pass through. The role you carry is far more significant than that. And somewhere deep within, they know it. That knowledge has started changing their decisions. Changing their priorities. Changing the way they spend their energy. Without realizing it, they have begun creating space. Space for something real. Space for something lasting. Space for a future they once feared hoping for. Yet there is still one final barrier standing before them. One challenge they must overcome before the next stage of this journey can begin. And that challenge is not external. It is internal. Because every person who is about to receive something meaningful must first answer an important question. Am I willing to receive it? Not someday. Not eventually. Now. That question has been echoing through their heart. And the answer they give may determine everything that happens next. Because destiny can open doors. But courage is what walks through them. The beautiful part is this. They are closer to that courage than they have ever been before. Closer than they were months ago. Closer than they were years ago. Closer than they realize. The old fears are losing their authority. The old doubts are losing their voice. The old stories they once believed about themselves are beginning to crumble. And as those walls fall, A new vision is appearing. A vision of what life could become. A vision that includes joy they never expected. Peace they never imagined. And a connection unlike anything they have known before. But what happens next may surprise even them. Because the next truth they uncover will not simply change how they see you. It will change how they see themselves. And once that realization arrives, there will be no returning to the person they used to be. The journey is about to enter its most powerful chapter yet. To be continued. A quiet shift is taking place. So subtle that most people would miss it. So powerful that it is changing everything. Your future soulmate is beginning to understand something that once felt impossible to accept. The connection they feel is no longer just about finding someone. It is about becoming someone. And that realization has arrived like the first light before dawn. Gentle at first. Then impossible to ignore. Because for a long time, they believed love would arrive and instantly solve every uncertainty. Instantly heal every wound. Instantly answer every question. But now they see a greater truth. Real connection does not merely reveal another person. It reveals you to yourself. And that is exactly what is happening. Every discovery about you has acted like a mirror. Showing them strengths they forgot they possessed. Showing them dreams they abandoned too soon. Showing them possibilities they stopped believing were meant for them. At first, they resisted these revelations. Growth can feel uncomfortable when it asks you to leave familiar limitations behind. But the resistance is fading. The excuses are fading. The hesitation is fading. Because deep within their spirit, a new certainty is emerging. Not certainty about every detail. Not certainty about every outcome. But certainty that this feeling exists for a reason. And once a soul begins trusting what it knows deep inside, everything changes. They have started noticing signs of transformation everywhere. The way they respond to challenges. The way they view their future. The way they carry themselves through uncertainty. Even the things that once consumed their energy no longer hold the same power. It is as though an invisible hand has been rearranging priorities. Quietly preparing them. Patiently shaping them. Guiding them toward a version of themselves that is capable of receiving what is coming. And perhaps the most surprising realization of all is that they no longer feel the need to chase. No longer feel the need to force. No longer feel the need to control every outcome. Instead, they are learning something rare. Trust. Trust in timing. Trust in purpose. Trust that what is meant to arrive will arrive at the right moment. This trust has brought a kind of peace they have not felt in a very long time. Yet beneath that peace, there is anticipation. Because part of them senses that a significant chapter is approaching. A chapter that will answer questions they have carried for years. A chapter that will connect experiences that once seemed unrelated. A chapter that will reveal why so many delays happened exactly the way they did. You see, what they are beginning to realize is extraordinary. The obstacles were not punishments. The waiting was not abandonment. The detours were not mistakes. Each season carried a purpose. Each lesson carried a gift. Each challenge carried preparation. And when they look back now, they can see how every road somehow pointed here. Toward this moment. Toward this discovery. Toward you. Not because life was leading them toward perfection. But because life was leading them toward alignment. The alignment of two people who have been shaped by different experiences. Yet prepared for a shared future. And as this understanding grows, so does their sense of wonder. Because the story feels larger than they imagined. More intentional than they expected. More meaningful than they dared hope. Yet the greatest revelation has still not fully arrived. It waits just beyond the horizon. closer than ever. Because soon, your soulmate will uncover the truth that ties everything together. The truth behind the strange familiarity. The truth behind the unexplainable pull. The truth behind the feeling that your paths have been moving toward each other for far longer than either of you realized. When that realization finally reaches their heart, the questions that once haunted them will begin to disappear. The doubts that once slowed them will lose their power. And the future that once seemed distant will suddenly feel closer than ever before. The next chapter will not be about wondering. It will not be about searching. It will be about recognizing. Recognizing what has been unfolding all along. And stepping boldly toward what was always meant to find its way home. To be continued.